Good afternoon, everybody. Looking forward to being with you again this week. Looks like our numbers are scarce this week. I don't know if that's Mondays or if we just had lots of people drop out from last week. Hopefully last week wasn't too scary. But for any of those that are feeling overwhelmed, today's lesson is going to be a pretty easy one. So it'll probably only take about 30 to 40 minutes today, because it'll be sort of a review of some things that you've done. But we're going to be talking about strings today, which we've already done quite a bit with strings. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Remember that the last day of class is this Thursday, wherein we will be making a table view, which will be a lot of fun, especially because most of the apps that you use on iOS are table view apps or contain some sort of table view. And so we'll kind of give you a little bit of exposure to how table views work and get you a functioning table view app. It's not going to be the prettiest app in the world, but it will be functional, which will be cool. So as far as announcements go, for those of you who are interested in the full-time course, remember to sign up online, and you can reach out to me or to Karen Zachary with any questions about the full-time course. Some of you have reached out to me about the iOS challenge. For those of you who have already started it, that's awesome. But remember, we still have a few more days of this course, and so some of the things that you'll be learning in this course in these next few days are going to help you with the iOS challenge if you end up wanting to do the full-time course. So we've got a lot of fun stuff this week. So today we're talking about strings. Tomorrow we're talking about collections, meaning like arrays and dictionaries and how to loop through those. And then on Wednesday, we are going to we're going to talk about creating our own custom data types, which will be really cool. Up to this point, we've just used kind of the standard data types like int and string and bool. But on Wednesday, we're going to be talking about how to create, like if I wanted to create dog or animal or car, we can create these different data types and use them throughout our app, right? And then, like I said, Thursday, we're going to be talking about table views. So that is an overview of our week. We went through a bunch of stuff last week. Does anybody have any questions about anything that we learned last week before we get started? Looks like we had one question come through about the link to the iOS challenge. I believe you get access to that after you register for the full-time course. So make sure that you register, and I believe they'll send it to you. I know that Samira has already started it. So Samira, I don't know if you already registered and that's how they sent it to you. Oh, you Googled it and finished it. Sweet. Yeah, as the intro instructor, I don't have a lot of the access to those different challenges and whatnot. But yes, it looks like you can either Google it, or I'm sure if you register for the full-time course, they'll send you a link to it. So, okay, guys, let's go ahead and get down to business here. So, share my screen. And we are going to get started with an Xcode playground today. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up Xcode, and I already have it open, so I'm going to do File, New Playground here. And you guys you're already pros with this, creating these new playgrounds here because we've done it so many times. All right. So let's go ahead and I'll make this a little bit bigger so you guys can see it. All right, so today we're talking about strings, which we've done a ton. We've created tons of constants and variables with strings. You can see even when we start a new playground here that it creates a string for us, right? So we've got this variable str string equals hello playground, okay? So this hello playground here, we know it's a string because it's wrapped in double quotes. And this example right here is what we call a string literal. This is how you create a string literal. And a string literal, what it is it's, it's a string, and it's a string that we hard code into our app, right? So if I say variable name equals Johnny, that is a string literal of my name, right? And so in my app, whenever I use my name variable, it's always going to be Johnny unless I change it, right? Unless I say like name equals John, right? But that is an example of a string literal, okay? And sometimes when we're programming, we want to have a string that may have multiple lines, right? It may have multiple lines, it may have punctuation. One that I was working on recently at my job was we have this long paragraph about our subscription terms for our application, and so it required being able to include multiple paragraphs and whatnot. And so this is where creating these string literals is going to come into play, right? So that's a one-line string literal, right? A way that we can create a multi-line string literal is a little bit different, okay? So as we've probably already seen, I can create a string here. Let's do introduction string. String equals, hi, my name is Johnny, period. Okay, and what if I wanted to go to a new line? Well, you can see that if I try to press enter and create a new line here, that it says, hey, you haven't terminated your string literal, right? Because this, when we're creating a string literal, this is expecting everything to be on the same line, okay? Which it isn't right now. So what we can do to create a string literal is I can put 3 triple quotes at the beginning and 3 triple quotes at the end. And then anything that falls in between these triple quotes will be included in my multi-line string literal, right? So if I say this is a multi-line string literal, it can cover multiple lines. You can even have multiple paragraphs. Okay, so now if we go down here and we print out my introduction string, let me bring up my console here. And if my playground doesn't break, stop that for a sec. Then we see here that everything that fell in between my triple double quotes will be included as part of my string, right? So print introduction string, we can see all of this here. Okay. And you can see that it also covers different punctuation, like if I tab, I believe if I do, will that include the forward slash? Yeah. So yeah, this is a pretty easy way to get just a long paragraph and to be able to include different formatting and whatnot, okay? So that is a multi-line string literal, but these are used less often. To be honest with you, I didn't know about multi-line string literals until I started teaching this class. And I actually showed one of my colleagues today who has been an iOS engineer for 2 years now, and I showed him these multi-line string literals, and this was the first time he had seen them as well. Okay, so they're pretty cool because they allow you to kind of do this multi-line and add paragraphs and whatnot. But more common than not, you'll see most of the strings that you create will be just string literals. Okay, and they'll just be on one line. Okay, so I want to talk to you about something that's called an escape character. Okay, and we can use escape characters in these single line string literals in order to create new paragraphs within a given string, right? So let's say, for example, I want to create my introduction. Well, let's do the same string that we did before, right? And this was a multi-line string. That was probably a better name for it, multi-line. Okay. Sorry, I just saw a question come through from Rebecca. You said that this didn't work for you. Did it give you like a specific error? Just didn't print anything? It might be because your playground, does your playground still say that it's running in the top? Sometimes playgrounds can be kind of silly and they keep running and running. Yeah, so you might just need to hit the stop button down here. This will look like a little square, a stop button. Go ahead and hit that, and then change your compiler configuration to manually run instead of automatically, and then hit the play button again and see if it runs your code. Because that code's definitely right. I think it's just the playground is being slow, which it usually is. So, okay. So let me talk to you. Like I said, I want to talk about escape characters. Escape characters. Okay, and so escape characters are characters that provide formatting to your strings, but they're not specifically seen when you print it out, right? So these are why they're called escape characters, okay? So let me talk to you about a few different ones. We have, first off, we have one that's \n, okay? And \n is a character for a new line, okay? Which is the equivalent of saying like enter, okay? Putting the line in between your first string and your second string, right? So if I wanted to print my first and last name on two different lines, I could do variable multi-line string equals, we'll do Johnny, and then we'll do \n, and then Hicks. And then let's go ahead and print out our multi-line string. So run this, and you see that it printed Johnny and Hicks out on two different lines, okay? So we don't actually see a \n in our print statement. So this is our first escape character of how we create a new line in our single line string literal, okay? Another one that we have is \\, okay? So because \ is kind of the preface to an escape character, in order to use it so that it actually shows up in code, we preface it with another \, okay? So if I wanted to include a \ after Hicks, then I would need to do \\. So escape character \. So I can run the code, and then you'll see that we get just one \. We don't get two, right? Because we're starting our escape character and then saying, no, I actually want this \ to be in the code. I don't want it to introduce some new escape character, okay? So somebody asked what's the difference between a string and a string literal. There isn't a difference. Sorry, I'm probably using those interchangeably. The string literal is like what we have here, this hard-coded string in between double quotes, but it is a string. That is its data type, right? Like if I option click on this, it's still a string. But I'm saying string literal just because we're like explicitly hard-coding this string in, okay? But I'll stop saying string literal, okay? It's just a string. Okay. Next escape character that we have here is \T, okay? And the T stands for tab, okay? So if I wanted to tab in my last name, I would do \T here. And we play that, and you see Johnny, and then we get a tab Hicks, okay? Some other common ones, so these double quotes, you can see that if I put a double quote in here, that it takes everything after my double quote out of my string literal that I had created, right? And so a double quote is also an escape character that must be prefaced by a backslash, right? So you can do / double quote, and then let's do / double quote here. And then we can run it, and you can see that now we've got Johnny and Hicks wrapped in double quotes. Okay? And then one of the last more common ones that you'll use, so we had double quote, right? And then we have single quote, okay? So / single quote. Okay, so then I can go ahead and say, new line, he is hilarious. And I said that myself, and I want to quote it. I want to quote myself. So I'll do / single quote. This is all in double quotes, right? Okay, so Johnny Hicks, he is hilarious, right? Cool. Okay, so that's an example of an escape character, okay? So now, I want to give you a quick challenge, okay? I want you to print something out for me that is formatted like this, okay? Okay, so I need to create a string literal that will print out something that is formatted like this, okay? Go ahead and take 2 minutes to set that up. All right, just take another few seconds. No, you don't need to post your answer. No need to post your answer. We'll go through it in a sec. All right, great. So let's go ahead and let's create a new constant, and let's do let story equal, okay? And this part's pretty easy, right? The boy cried, okay? And then we need a new line, okay? We actually need two new lines, right? And then it looks like we're going to be tabbing it in, okay? And then we need to use an escape character for our double quote, wolf, exclamation point. And then we need one more escape character to finish off our double quote. And let's go ahead and print out our story here. Okay, so we'll run it. And, oh, whoops. Of course, that's not going to compile. And we see the boy cried wolf. Okay, is everybody able to get that okay? Any questions about escape characters before we move on? Okay, we'll take that as a no. So now I want to talk about how we can combine strings, how we can combine two different strings, okay? So there are two things. There's one way or one method called string concatenation, and the other is called string interpolation, okay? Pretty cool words, right? String concatenation is the more basic way, and it has its limitations, and you'll see why. So let's go ahead and let's say that I've got a property here. Let greeting equal hello there. Okay. Actually, let's do this. Okay. Let name equal Johnny Hicks. Okay. And so then let's say let full greeting, and I want to combine these two strings. Okay. So let me show you. Because these are both strings, we can use the addition sign, right? And we can add these two strings together using a plus sign. Okay, so if I do full greeting equals greeting plus name, well, let's see what we get. Okay. Oops, I want to print this. Print full greeting. Okay. So go ahead and we'll run this, and then we see that we get hello there, Johnny Hicks. Okay, but what's happening here? Well, it's just simply taking one string and appending the next string right next to it. Okay, and this is one of the limitations with the string concatenation, is that you have to be like very specific and include all of the punctuation either within the variables that you've created or inside of your equation for the string concatenation, right? So I could, for example, say, hello there, comma, space here, and then you'll see that that reflects there, hello there, comma, space, Johnny Hicks, right? Or what I could do is I could put it here, and I could do comma, space, Johnny Hicks, and we see the same thing. Or another way would be if I just wanted to have just the standard properties right there, I could do greeting plus, and then we can create a string literal here and do comma space, and then plus name, and run that, right? So that's one of the, I guess, one of the limitations of the string concatenation. It's really simple, but you have to kind of get into the nitty gritty of like the formatting commas and periods and making sure they're spaced correctly, right? So this is, there's nothing wrong with this way, and this works in a lot of different cases, but just recognize and know that there's that slight limitation, right? Okay, so I want you guys to take 2 minutes right now, and using string concatenation, I want you to introduce yourselves, okay? So I want you to include your name, where you are from, and what you like to do for fun. Okay, and obviously these three things are going to be three different properties, and then use string concatenation to put them all together. Okay, so go ahead and take 2 minutes to do so now. All right, let's go ahead and let's go through it here. Okay, so I'm going to have my constant here. Let name equal Johnny Hicks. Let where from equal Provo, Utah. Let for fun equal play basketball. Okay, so now I want to go ahead and combine these. So let's go ahead and say let introduction equal, and then remember we need to preface this, right? Hi, my name is, and then we want to include my name property. Okay, and then we're going to add, let's do, I want to do a period, right? So this can get somewhat tedious, and I'll talk about a cooler way to do all of this in a sec. And I'm going to do a space here. And I am from Provo, Utah, period, space. And then let's add, I also like to play basketball, with a period, okay? So then let's go ahead and let's print out introduction. And hi, my name is Johnny Hicks, and I am from Provo, Utah. I also like to play basketball. Sweet. Okay, so that's what you should have all gotten, and that is an overview of string concatenation, how you can just kind of put all these strings together and add them all up, okay? So before we talk about string interpolation, I want to talk about looping through the characters inside of a string, okay? So what's cool about strings and their data type is that you can actually loop through each character within a string and discover specific properties about them, right? So if I wanted to do something like this, let's say, let hello string equal hello, okay? And then I can use a for loop and say for character in hello string, print out my character, okay? So what would we expect? Well, if we run this, we'll see that we get HELLO all printed on new lines, right? So these for loops actually have this ability to go through each character in a string, okay? And you may wonder, well, why would I ever want to do something like that? Well, if you think about it, say you wanted to identify like how many times a letter occurs inside of a string. Well, we can use that by using this for loop in this character here, right? So let's say, for example, let's create a function that will give us the count of a given letter inside of a given string, okay? So let's practice our creating our functions here. Remember, we start with the keyword func. Now let's call this function, give me the count. Give me the count, right? And we're going to be passing in some sort of phrase, a string, right? And we also want to identify a letter, okay? So we're going to pass in a letter because I want to know how many times a letter occurs in a given phrase. Okay, so we've got two parameters. I've got my phrase and then our letter, which is going to be of type character. Okay, that's a new one that we haven't seen yet. And let's return an integer, right? Because we're wanting to return a count, which is going to be an integer. Okay, well, let's go ahead and let's have something store our count. Okay, so let's create this property letter count and start it out at 0. Okay, because it's always going to start at 0 before we actually get into our loop. Okay, so variable letter count is equal to 0. Okay, so now we're going to go in our for loop, right, and say for character in phrase. Okay, for character in phrase, if character, right, if our character here is equal to the letter that we passed in here, right? If character is equal to letter, then I want to up my letter count by 1, right? Plus equals 1. Okay? And then when all is said and done, we want to print out our letter count. That will give us the total count of a given letter inside of a phrase. Okay. All right, well, let's go ahead and let's see if this works. Okay, so I'm going to call my function, give me the count. Hello, my name is Bobby Joe, and I like to play basketball. Okay, so let's go ahead and what if I want to see how many times the letter B occurs? Okay, well, actually, no, let's start with the letter L. Okay, and so to do a character, we also need to put it in double quotes. And instead of, sorry, I said we wanted to return something, right? So it's getting mad at me and it's saying I need to return something. Well, I want to return my letter count. Okay, and then let's do let letter count equal give me the count. And then let's go ahead and print out letter count. All right, so let's run this code. And we'll see that the letter L occurs 6 times in our string, right? Well, let's go ahead and make sure that that's true. So hello has 2, like has 1, play has 1, and basketball has 2. Okay, so that's 6, which is great. Well, what if I wanted to check the letter B? Okay, let's do the letter B. We see that it occurs 4 times. Okay, let's take a look. So B, so that's 3. Basketball also has 2 B's. So it should be 5. Does anybody know why it's only showing us 4 here? Any ideas? Yeah, Chris got it right? So this is case sensitive, okay? So one awesome thing that Apple has given us in order to overcome kind of these case sensitivities is there's actually these methods that they give on strings where we can uppercase or we can lowercase everything inside of a given string, okay? So let me show you how to do that. So for character in phrase, phrases are string, right? If I actually do phrase dot, then I get access to all of these what we call methods or functions that are part of this data type, okay? And you can see we've got some weird things like debug description, distance. Oh, but then we have this one right here, lowercase, okay? And so if I highlight that, it says returns a lowercase version of the string, okay? And that's the same with uppercase, although it's just the opposite, right? Returns an uppercase version of the string. Okay, so what I can do here to make sure that I don't run into any of these case-sensitive issues is that I need to pull in my parameter, which is my phrase, but then I either need to uppercase or lowercase everything, okay? So if I do lowercase here and run our code, then we'll see that we're at 5, right? So it takes everything in the string, it goes through it, and anything that's uppercase, it's gonna lowercase it. And that way, when I pass in my my character here, I don't need to worry about, oh, well, did it catch all of the uppercase and lowercase b's, right? Because everything is already lowercase as it loops through my function, okay? Okay, guys, we're almost done. So let's go ahead and let's talk about string interpolation, okay? So string interpolation is awesome because it allows us to include the values of specific properties inside of a string, okay? And so it almost includes like an escape character for a property, okay? So let me show you. Let's say that I have a farmer and he has cows, okay? And this number of cows could change, right? And so I don't want to hard code into my app and say the farmer has 10 cows, right? I want it to be a property that I can change and that will update accordingly, okay? So let's say that I've got a variable here, let number of cows equal 782, okay? Let string to print equal the farmer has, okay? So the farmer has 782 cows, right? At least for now. So what I can do is I can do what we did for escape characters and do a backslash. And then inside these parentheses here, I can put a property, okay? So then I can put number of cows in here. And then I just need to figure this, I need to finish this off with cows, right? Because otherwise it would just say that the farmer has 782, right? So the farmer has, and then I insert or interpolate my number of cows property inside of my string, right? So now, if I print out my string to print, we will see the farmer has 782 cows, okay? And so then say down here, I've got a function cow died, and we'll go ahead and we'll say number of cows minus equals 1. And then let's go ahead and print out string to print again every time I call this, right? So now if I call cow died, run the code, we'll see that. Oh, sorry, cows cannot be changed unless this is a variable, okay? So now I run the code and we see the farmer has 782 cows. That's not right, is it? Cow died. Number of cows. What am I missing here? Do you guys see it? I'm not seeing it right now. Farmer has number of cows. I take my number of cows minus equals 1. Cows is equal to 1. I don't know why that's not subtracting. That seems pretty straightforward. Let string to print, the farmer has this number of cows. Number of cows is equal to number of cows minus 1, right? This even shows that number of cows is going down, right? Does anybody see? Am I just blind? Let's just include all of this inside the function, right? There we go. Okay. So let's string to print equal the farmer has this number of cows. Number of cows is equal to number of cows minus 1, right? Because the cow died, and then we print out our string, okay? So the farmer has 782, then he has 781. Okay? Yeah, awesome. Thanks for your help, guys. I don't know why it's Mondays, right? Anyway, okay. So this is what's so cool about string interpolation is that I can actually put these properties inside of these strings, right? So let's say that I'm creating a game, just another example of string interpolation, and I have a game that checks the number of lives that my character has, okay? So let's set up a property. We've got number of lives, and say that my character starts out with 5 lives, okay? Well, let's create a function here. Lose life. Are you guys not able to see my screen right now? Okay, my screen is still showing. Okay, good. All right, so every time that our character loses a life, right, we do minus equals 1. Okay, and then let's have another function here, how much life, right? And we want to pass in some sort of lives property. And this is what's going to generate our string. So let's do let string equal, you have, then we do an escape character, right, for our property, and we're going to pass in our parameter. So you have this many lives left, right? But we don't want it to just continually keep saying you have this many lives left, right? Because if we have 0 lives left, that means we got a game over. Okay, so we need to do a conditional here and say if lives is greater than 0, well then we can go ahead and we can just print out my string. Otherwise, let's go ahead and print game over. Okay, so, and then I want to, every time I lose a life, I want to call my how much life function, and we're going to be using our number of lives here, right? Okay, and so this is an example of how we can use functions within functions, right? So I have a function that's calling another function. Okay, so now I never need to call how much life again, because lose life is already going to do that for me, right? So if I lose life here, well, let's go ahead and print it. And you have 4 lives left. Okay, lose life again. Lose life a couple times. But we should see that we are down to 1 life left. So what would we expect if we call this one more time? Let's play it, and we see game over. Okay? So that is what makes string interpolation so awesome, because then we can have these variable properties here that will change over time, okay? And so with the example that I gave that I was working on, like our subscription language for our application, right? Our subscription terms, that instead of just saying after this date you'll be charged this much, because that changes according to what state you're in, or not what state, but what country you're in, right? It could be US dollars, or it could be pesos, or I don't know, right? So what I can do is that say like after the subscription term, you will be charged, and then insert a property, right? This much after the first 12 months or whatever, right? And so that's why string interpolation is so much better, because we can use properties inside them that are more accurate instead of hard coding values right into our string literals, right? Okay. So, how is everybody feeling okay about string interpolation? It's not too bad, right? Okay. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and give you your homework then. That is all that we have for today. Homework. Okay, and then I'll also include that. I will, in where we post the, let's see here. So in Slack, right, the topic of the channel, I also have the homework in there. So I just set the topic, and you should see it in Slack that it gives you your homework as well as the daily stand-up form that you need to fill out, okay? So that's everything that we have for today, guys. Make sure to come back tomorrow where we'll be talking about collections, namely arrays and dictionaries, which are super important in programming. So that will be a lot of fun. But I will plan on talking to you all tomorrow, okay? You guys have a great night, and we'll see you then.